Okay, so this is going to be a workflow for retopologizing all of these flat meshes and being able to view them also on the three-dimensional version of the mesh. So basically things that are imported from Marvelous, this would be a nice way to do it, but it doesn't limit it to that. This workflow can be used in other ways as well. For example, mirroring topology and having it update on both sides, and also being able to apply things like deformers. In any case, let's just set it up first. So here I have all of my pieces here. Let's hide the flat mesh coming out of Marvelous. So this is all of the retopologized pieces, and they're all separate. I can grab all of those, and I will want to combine them for this workflow, because I will want to have that transfer attributes part of it done on one mesh rather than having to do it on multiple meshes. So once we have it combined, I will jump into the... Also, I just want to make sure here that I have my UVs appropriately set up. So as you can see right now, my UVs are not all the way there. So I'll bring back the flat mesh. And now that we have... It looks like we're missing a couple pieces here, but I'm just going to ignore it for now. So I'll select my flat. I'll select my newly created merged geo. And going into my mesh transfer attribute settings, I can choose my UV set. Usually I'll just go all just to keep it relatively universal. And hit apply. So in this case now we've inherited the UVs of the other mesh as you would do in other workflows. I'm just going to go ahead and remove for now the flat. And duplicate, well actually I'm not even going to duplicate it, I'm going to create an empty mesh node. So let's jump into the node editor. I'll expose whatever I have currently selected, which is this newly merged mesh. And I'm also going to create another mesh, like so. And the next thing I'll do is from the shape node of one of them, I'll connect the out mesh into the in mesh of this newly created shape, which should create a new piece of geometry. So let's take a look at this. Polysurface mesh. Let's assign some sort of material so we're not offended by this green lack of material that we can see. And as you can see, it also inherited the UVs. Wonderful. You can close this now. I don't need it anymore. Next, basically what I want to do now that I have this Polysurface 1 mesh connected to my original, so let's just rename them. I'll call this one original, or maybe even like work, flat work mesh. And then let's call this one, instead of flat, call it 3D work mesh. Can we handle 3? Oh yeah, I guess we can. So make it back. So this mesh, I will want to inherit the shape of the actual cloth that I'm bringing from Marvelous. So let's make the cloth appear and transfer those attributes. So in this case, I will use, instead of the UVs, vertex position, using the UVs that we've just transferred that match to the original. And I'll do this. And for now, I can minimize it and make that high clothes layer disappear. So we have now something like this. Now the beauty of our situation right now is I can now start working on the mesh in its flat version and update the three-dimensional mesh behind it. So some of the things we can do here that are kind of important. For example, select all of those internal pieces and I can go and reverse their directionality. So now we get a little bit more of a more realistic view of how this will look, and we can get a little bit of a better idea which parts we want to push in, what do we want to erase, and such. One thing to consider is if we're going to, for example, scale this middle edge loop to be completely flat, and then, for example, erase the right hand side of my mesh. Let me just get rid of this. If I get rid of this, and for example, if I would want to propagate the left side to the right side, I will do something like this. As you can see, it removes it also from the 3D mesh. It is going to be significantly easier to select this, for example, and here if I'm doing duplicate faces, to go to the settings and cancel the separate duplicate faces setting here. And now I should be able to move it, but it's still part of my current mesh. And then holding J, I can scale it into its opposite side, and then mesh display reverse. So now, if I bring back my flat version, I can see where it's supposed to sit. So our UVs are properly copied. Let's make it go away again. Select my edges, expand, well, it's just a script that I use. And then holding J, I'm merging them in the center and merging my vertices. I'm just going to raise the threshold a little bit. I can kill my history now. And as you can see, we still have an issue here, right? We do not have our back mesh properly represented. So basically what has happened here, let's see if we still are connected here. You see we're still connected, but this mesh over here didn't inherit the UVs. So we need to make sure that the UVs are working as they should. Let's go back to the UVs and take a look. So if I'm doing this, I'm kind of sharing the UVs right now, which is not what I want. So basically, all I need to do now is bring back my flat and transfer my attributes again. Let's get rid of this for now and close this mesh, transfer attributes, and I'm gonna use again the UVs and using the world for that operation. You can see now, even for a relatively complicated thing that we did here, we should be able to get away with it. And I can hide it, and I can start retopologize, and I can get in here, for example, change the spacing on these edges, right? So I can kind of regularize them and make sure that they're the same length. I can get in here, maybe convert to vertices if I click and drag and basically average vertex C button, and so on and so forth, doing something like this to change the distances between those edges. We can regularize them and just keep going, getting in there. For example, I can select something like this, shrink selection. Oops. Shrink selection. There we go. And then